worn and dusty, tattered, torn and dark and musty. Unventilated corridors, spider webs have taken over. Your head is on my shoulder as your heart is growing colder. Feels like we're both in prison, just seems like the right decision. It's all because we're drifting farther than we've ever gone before. And I can tell what's missing while you're listening to promises made before. It's taking our lives over. I'll just take mine back and hit the door. But it's got your impression deeply at the core.
Chapter 4. Begin training today. Steps to choosing the right kettlebell. When you first make the decision to begin training with kettlebells and get the kettlebell advantage, an obvious question will rise. What size kettlebell do you need to start? A great question, but though there's no hard answer that will cover all people, there are some sound guidelines that can help you pick the right kettlebell and begin your training. Here's my thoughts on the subject. The first thing you should do when getting ready to pick the right kettlebell is to honestly take a look which one of the following broad categories you broadly fall into. The advice that follows should be a big help in making the right choice of which kettlebell size is a good first choice. The traditional first kettlebell. If you are an average to fit man between say 160 pounds to 210 pounds, the traditional Russian recommendation would be for you to begin with a 35-pound kettlebell. This weight will allow you to train in and master the kettlebell basic movements and exercises with a weight you can manage safely. Once you become used to the movements, weight, and build up some strength, you will be able to make the jump up to heavier bell. The kettlebell starting point for stronger men. Some people will, of course, come to the kettlebell advantage with a greater base strength. If you have an extensive base in bodybuilding or powerlifting, are a large man, or just naturally very powerful, my suggestion is to first see how easily you can lift a 35-pound bell to your shoulder. Very easy? Then start with a 45-pound bell. This is close to the standard size kettlebell used by Eastern European military units, which is 24 kilograms. I would advise against beginning your training with a heavier kettlebell until you are more comfortable with the movements. Safety should always come first. You won't make progress if you're injured. A good starting point for most women. Kettlebells are becoming more and more popular with women fitness enthusiasts. A great starting point for most women is the 15-pound kettlebell. Some women may find this a bit heavy, and some a bit light, and should adjust their starting point accordingly. 3 things to keep in mind when choosing your starting kettlebell. 1. It's always better to start lighter than heavier. You will build up the weight as your skills progress. The kettlebell advantage is as much about skill as it is about strength. Number 2. Try your best to remove ego from the process of choosing your starting weight. Progress will often come faster in the long run when you start with a lighter weight. And number 3. The weights you use with barbells and dumbbells don't carry over in a straight line to kettlebell training. Many men who can do 75-pound dumbbell shoulder presses cannot do a 50-pound kettlebell shoulder press, and many men who can squat with 200 pounds loaded on a barbell can barely squat with 2 50-pound kettlebells. This is part of why taking the kettlebell advantage will ultimately make you so fit and strong. There's a large number of great companies making high-quality kettlebells today, so keep your eyes on prices and deals when it's time to go kettlebell shopping. Don't forget you will likely never have to replace them, so sometimes spending an extra few dollars on the right set may well be the right decision in the long run. Your grandkids may even use them someday. Chapter 5. Avoid beginner mistakes when starting out. With the exploding popularity of kettlebell training, a dilemma presents itself. Kettlebells aren't thigh masters or shake weights. Kettlebells are serious strength and fitness training tools that require a bit of skill to develop mastery in. Beginner's kettlebell training is not dangerous in itself, but there are common mistakes that can be avoided with a bit of good instruction, common sense, or in this case, a few smart tips here in Kettlebell Advantage. Pay attention to these, and you will not only increase your chances of staying injury-free, but you will also get the most out of your early kettlebell training. Mistake number 1, going way too heavy. I touched on this in our chapter on choosing your first kettlebell, but it's well worth repeating. There's no easier and quicker way to, at best, discourage yourself from further kettlebell training, or at worst, to injure yourself badly, than to attempt to train kettlebell movements with a kettlebell that is too heavy. Many rotator cuffs have been stained by ego-driven fitness enthusiasts who tried to do kettlebell clean and presses with a 65-pound bell who should have been using a 45-pound bell. Friends, check your ego at the door when you take the kettlebell advantage. Mistake number 2, using isolation movements. Kettlebell training is all about compound movements, not small joint isolation moves you can see people in a gym doing with light dumbbells. Please don't do things like wrist curls with your kettlebells unless you want to end up with sore joints. Kettlebell training will build your strength, power, and fitness over your entire body by working your entire body as a whole, not by making the mistake of trying to focus on very small body parts one by one. This is a key difference in the Kettlebell Advantage that puts the program heads and shoulders above the nonsense you see most people wasting their time with in big commercial gyms. Mistake number 3, over-relying on your arms to move your kettlebells. When training with kettlebells, most of your power comes from your shoulders, hips, quads, and core acting as one. Trying to pull them off the ground using a rounded back and the strength of your arms is a common beginner's mistake that will not only limit the power you can generate, but that can also lead to injury. Learn the habit of using your whole body to move your kettlebells. A look at some of the good YouTube videos on the subject, think Pavel, Mike Mailer, and Steve Maxwell, can be a big help in this if you are training at home without an instructor. Mistake 4, not building a solid kettlebell foundation. There's plenty of kettlebell exercises for you to learn as you become a more advanced lifter. In fact, there's almost no limit to them, all in good time. As a beginner, focus all your energy on building a solid and strong kettlebell foundation. This may take a year or two. This is one of the beautiful things about the Kettlebell Advantage. Its simplicity and focus on back-to-basics aspects of what works, period. Embrace it. Avoid these beginner mistakes and you will find yourself on the fast track to kettlebell and fitness success. Chapter 6, the absolute best kettlebell movements. I've talked a bit in the past chapters of our guide here about the advantages of building a strong foundation in basic kettlebell movements. These have been shown again and again to give us the most bang for our buck and to lead to huge strength and fitness gains in a very short amount of time. They provide the real meat of the kettlebell advantage. Dig into the top kettlebell movements. The kettlebell swing. Some swear that the squat is king, but this may be the most powerful fitness movement of all. The kettlebell swing is so powerful and transformative, there's been entire fitness books and programs wrote around this one simple move, and rightly so. A few months of swings, and you may not be able to recognize yourself in the mirror. To execute the swing, stand with your legs a bit wider than your shoulders, holding your kettlebell between your legs with both hands. Bend your knees and hips, swinging your bell behind you between your legs. Swing the bell forward while straightening your knees and thrusting your hips in one motion. Stop at eye level and swing backward, under control. The kettlebell swing is often used for high repetitions as a fat burner as well as for its strength building properties. The kettlebell press. There's a variety of kettlebell presses, and they will all do wonders for building your shoulders, upper chest, triceps, and core. The basic kettlebell shoulder press involves starting with the kettlebell on your shoulder and pressing it overhead. A slight bend in the knee and hip thrust is acceptable, turning this into what most trainers would call a push press. The kettlebell swing. You can also begin with the kettlebell hanging, swinging it to the upper chest and pressing in a fluid motion. This builds massive power and makes the move a kettlebell clean and press. This move is loved by martial artists, boxers, and other high-impact sports athletes. The kettlebell front squat. Swing kettlebells to upper chest with help of a training partner. Instead of pressing overhead, drop down in a controlled manner, glutes as close to the floor as possible. Pause and explode from starting position. Explode to starting position. This will tone and strengthen your quads, hamstrings, glutes, and core. The kettlebell Russian twist. Yes, we even have a abdominal specific kettlebell exercise. Sit in the sit-up position on the floor. Lower your upper body until it is in the midway spot between your knees and the floor. Hold a light kettlebell on your chest. Twist your upper body from side to side with the kettlebell nearly touching the floor at both ends. This fantastic exercise will build total core strength like no other. Crunches and sit-ups can't even come close to comparing to its effectiveness. There's many other kettlebell movements, but these top moves are a great start for new and experienced lifters alike. Are you ready to master them?